It's American.
I know.
Hey, we're live. What's up, everybody?
Yo.
Hey.
Hey.
Oh, totally forgot we were going live.
know.
Hayes, what's going on?
Just
I meant to say, welcome to Crossing the Streams, everyone. This is so exciting. We already have a comment. I don't even know what's going on here. Woo. Lee made it. Thanks for making it, Lee.
Woo.
We're so good.
Lee.
We got our tradition here. We got our guest, Geoffrey D. Calhoun, and he's going to sing our theme song to kick things off.
Oh, man, here we go. Here's the story of some lonely fellows who spend way too much time watching the TV. All of them have jobs and friends. Well, not really, just between you and me.
You're killing it.
They made a live show out of their hobby. I don't know. Every TV watches TV watching dream. Jeff and Ron and Sal and Bob, and there's Howard. They call it Crossing the Streams. This is turning into a Dr. Seuss book, guys. Sorry about that. And then one day, they went live on all platforms. You could hear the people laugh and shout and scream. Still can't find another word that rhymes with platform, but man, we crossed the streams.
We crossed the streams.
We crossed the streams. That's the way we do it here. We cross the streams.
That was kind of the William Shatner Rocket Man karaoke version.
Yeah, you're welcome, everybody.
We give you most unique.
CRP, what up?
CRP's in the house. So welcome, everybody, Crossing the Streams. Between us, we have 500 million hours of TV watching experience. We're number one in 1,472 countries, 67 states. It's an incredible record that we have week after week. We can't thank you all enough. We've got so much fun for you planned today. So much fun. But first, let's meet our guest. Geoffrey Calhoun comes from. Geoffrey, tell us all about you.
Okay. I'm Geoffrey D. Calhoun, host of the Successful Screenwriter podcast. I'm a screenwriter, been doing this for about 15 years. I teach it as well. I have stuff that's optioned and produced, and I have a best-selling book called The Guide for Every Screenwriter.
Awesome. And for those of you who guessed he wouldn't even be here, you're right. Mark it down. Mark it down.
Always bet the under.
He makes a cameo every episode.
You never know. So we're exciting. If you missed last week, we had a great week last week. We had Shizzles. Anyway, it's a great movie that it was actually done before the other movie. That was good. And then Resident Alien, part of our Alan Tudyk week to week. The Con, and Made for Love. And I will say, Howard, based on your recommendation, I went and watched Made for Love. I watched the whole thing. Zach, I think you saw it too. Yep. I found it quite interesting. It was helpful to frame it as a 8-episode Black Mirror episode or series, but it was definitely interesting. It was interesting. When you kind of explained it last week, it didn't really occur to me that it was based on the real insecurities of a billionaire that grew up almost socially inept.
Yeah. It's really good. It's not a ha-ha funny series, but it does have some laugh out loud hysterical moments. It's a pretty intriguing social commentary also, I think.
It was great, and Ray Morano was great. And
close.
How do you say it? Close, right?
Romano.
Yeah, it was great. And it was funny because it's how you feel about that doll throughout the entire series and the parallels that you slowly realize it is to the rest of what's going on. Brilliant. Yeah. Anyway, I encourage everyone to check out episode 20. It was just full of pearls of wisdom. Today, we're going to do a full recap of Winter Soldier. Geoffrey D. Calhoun's going to talk about Shadow and Bone. We're going to talk about Mortal Kombat, Sal's favorite movie of the year. We're going to talk about Billions, one of Howard Rosner's favorite shows. It's exciting, but you know what we do first? You know what you all been coming here for? Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Netflix Metrix.
Yay! America's favorite game show.
Yay.
Okay, let's get this going. Netflix
wait.
Metrix.
I just want to give a shout out to my mother-in-law who is watching, and she told me earlier today that aside from my recaps, the Netflix Metrix is without question her favorite part of every show.
Wow.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Yep.
Oh, well, I love that. Thank you. Well, for those who don't know, what my current obsession is with Netflix is this random subcategory that showed up a couple months ago called the top 10 in the US. I did some weird research because I'm bored. I have really nothing else going on. And it turns out that 75 million US citizens pay for Netflix and watch stuff. What this one category is whatever the most amount of people watched yesterday, it shows up in this category today as the top 10 in the US. So what I decided to do was to watch everything in the top 10 in the US for as long as I possibly can, and really just to see what's wrong with Americans. So here's what I had to watch today. Number 10, we got Ginny in Georgia, which has been on here for 42 days. We've talked about this before. It's a cute little show. Whatever. Number 9, I was very happy to see this. I have not seen this movie in a very long time. It is from 1992. It's called American Me. If you don't know, it's from director Edward James Olmos, written by Floyd Metrix. This thing is a beautiful, almost perfect movie that I think is aggressively underplayed. If you don't know what this movie is, it's a Mexican-American mafia kingpin. He's released from prison and falls in love for the first time and grows introspective about his gangster lifestyle. If you don't know who Edward James Olmos is, he's in Battlestar Galactica. He is in Selena. He is in Blade Runner. Amazing actor. I didn't even know that he directed this movie, so I started doing some research. But this movie it's stoic. It's intense. It's a phenomenal portrayal of the Mexican community and gang life. I would say this is almost up there with a Godfather-like style movie because it is so intense, it's so brutal, but still just absolutely beautiful. So it showed up. It's been there for 2 days now, so you got a chance to see it. So go check it out. American Me. Anybody seen American Me? Right?
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it.
I love Edward James Olmos.
You can't talk about Edward James Olmos though without talking about Stand and Deliver.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Blade Runner and Selena. Selena's a way better movie.
But I can still multiply by 9 on
right. That's what I was going to say. 9 times 2, 81.
Yeah, that's true. Stand and Deliver also true. But yeah, this movie
63.
caught me off guard. I haven't seen it since I worked at Blockbuster way back in the day. But yeah, this movie is cool. So please check it out. Number 8, Nikki, Ricky, Dickie, and Dawn. I'm going to move along. This thing is garbage. 7 is The Serpent. We've talked about this. It's been on for 24 days. Lackluster at best. Number 6, Coco Melon. Kind of starting to weigh on me. I think I'm starting to like this show.
No iCarly.
No, it's no iCarly. I won't give iCarly a chance. Please, if you even decide to type in I and then C, I will hunt you down and throw stuff at your house like eggs and maybe rocks. I don't know. Let's see. Number 5 is The Circle. Oh, hell yes. I love the show. This is such crazy shit. I wish I could put this into a liquid and put it into my veins somehow. This show has me. Please just watch this show and try to ignore it. I dare you. Number 4, Baker and the Beauty. I dig it. I'm still in. I know that it's not Jeff's style, but I'm in. Number 3 is Life in Color with David Attenborough. It is one of the newer Netflix series. I'm always a fan of David Attenborough whenever he shows up on anything. I find a lot of his documentaries to be really just kind of peaceful and serene, and I really learn a lot. I feel bad about how much plastic I'm using. I will say this one really just explores color. It does feel more like a fluff piece, but obviously when you have crazy serial killer documentaries and intense aggression and Mortal Kombat style stuff, having just a little bit of serenity and quiet and David Attenborough's voice to fall asleep to is always beautiful. It obviously is a gorgeous thing, but it's really just about color. So if you're not into that, whatever, move on. 2, Stowaway. Okay, before I talk about this, has anyone on here watched this movie?
Which one is it?
About it today,
it's got Anna Kendrick. It's got Toni Collette. It's got
they go to Mars or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh wow, what a weird movie. Okay, so I'm gonna do something that I don't normally do, and I'm gonna go on a bit of a roller coaster with this movie. It's directed and written by Joe Penna. It stars Anna Kendrick, like I said, Daniel Day Kim, Shamir Anderson, and Toni Collette. It's about a 3-person crew on a mission to Mars that faces an impossible choice when an unplanned passenger jeopardizes the lives of everyone on board. Okay, movie started off. I'm like, whoa, great cast, cool things. Anna Kendrick as an astronaut. I'm into this. It's got a good atmosphere. It's shot nice. I'm already giving this movie a 7. Next thing that goes, plot thickens, mysterious discovery. Boom, shot up to a 9. I'm super into this. Then immediately, there's an extra passenger on board inside of a compartment that has to get screwed on from the outside. Doesn't make sense to me. I'm down to a 5 immediately. When it turns out there's nothing about this guy whatsoever, and they don't explain how he got there or whatever's going on, it's hitting that 4 zone for stars now. It is there's a 2-year space travel with no backup plan on board. There's no repair machinery. There's no redundancy for life support. There's literally no science or understanding of a story structure in here. I'm way down to about 2 stars. When they're facing solar radiation in 20 minutes, they decide to take 1 tank with them, risking their own lives. And then I pretty much hit an absolute 0 stars when the girl decides to sacrifice herself in a stupid heroic gesture just because a moment ago she didn't have a second to disconnect the 1 remaining leaking tank. This movie sucks. I am so sorry. I was so excited for a female driven astronaut movie. Like, it starts off where it's like, oh cool, the sick one is the guy and the weak one is the guy. I like what they're doing and it's got a cool feel. Immediately you're like, well, how did the guy get screwed into this panel? That doesn't make any sense. Nobody knows. There's 4 people. Nobody knows how this guy's behind this. They don't. Awful. Please. You can literally skip this and not miss anything. Now, number 1, which I'm kind of excited about, is Shadow and Bone, which we're going to talk about later. I'm going to give my friends an opportunity to talk about that one. But for the most part, that is the top 10 in the U.S., and that was my Netflix Metrix. So, yeah. That's
well done.
Hey!
I have a question. I have a question for Zach. When I log on to Netflix, why does it sometimes it shows me a top 10 and sometimes it doesn't? It won't even bring it up. I won't see it on my home screen. Or
Zach, if I may, Sal, how many times have we told you Zach is not tech support?
No, that is weird.
He sees it every day. So.
I actually would like to talk about this. About 2 days ago, I turned on my TV, and like I told you guys before, it updates at 12:30 my time every single day. So I turn on my TV, and I go to, and it's like 3 down, boom, boom, boom. Top 10. For some reason, 2 days ago, it was like 25 things down. I don't know if people are mad about this or this category is just not working out. But today when I logged on, it was about 30 pages down. So they're really trying to hide this category, which makes me want to dive a little bit deeper into this because I think I'm onto something weird. But either way, Americans still like Cocoa Melon. So
all right.
Whatever.
Zach, how do I get the clock to stop flashing?
Oh, that's very easy. You just unplug it and plug it back in. That's pretty solid. Yeah.
Zach, when my phone says it should update to the new OS, should I update it to the new OS?
No, because then you get the new Snapchat. Then you get the new Snapchat filters, and nobody likes that.
Are we hashtagging right now? Is this hashtagging?
I love that. Those commercials are my favorite.
It's a great commercial.
Oh man. Well, since Sal, you're on a roll, let's talk about one of the greatest anticipated movies of all time.
Is it really?
I'm so excited. Mortal Kombat.
Wow.
Let's talk about. I'll tell you what. I watched it, so I'm ready.
Me too.
I'm ready to hear you guys' take on it because I'm not a big Mortal Kombat guy. I never played the video game. I had to do some research on this. Jeffrey, thank you for giving me this because it got me out of my realm. I actually watched it with my almost 90-year-old father who couldn't quite follow it because he watches Bonanza every night. So it was a little tough for him. But anyway, it's based off the video game, but it's a martial arts fantasy film. I believe they did one back in 1997. I Googled that trailer. Is it 1995?
95, and they had a sequel at 97.
Okay, correct. So I guess the one in 97, or one of them were critically horrible, and it just didn't do very well. And I watched that trailer, and the trailer was horrible. So But I just want to get a feel for it. Also the game and everything. But anyway, for me personally, I mean, I can't wait to hear you guys on it. But I thought it was a really good movie. I loved how it started. Really cool scene with Hanzo is going back to his family, his wife and his kid, and then his little baby in the house. And then this Sub-Zero guy shows up and kills the family, and that's how it kind of starts. And then they go into the outer world, but I saw that they've already had, like, because obviously with the game you got to get 10 wins. Well, when the movie kind of starts after that opening scene, they've already won 9 tournaments, which I kind of had a hard time following, but obviously because I don't know the history of it. But anyway, that fight scene in the beginning was unbelievable. I thought it was great martial arts technique. From what I watched in the trailer 30 years ago, there was a couple martial arts dudes in that one too. But this one, this dude, Louis Tan, who plays Cole Young, he's really good. And Liu Kang, who's played Lu Lin. His 2 names are almost identical. But his martial arts in this is incredible. It's kind of like a Bruce Lee kind of character. So I thought he was really cool. My favorite character was Sub-Zero. I think this dude was unbelievable. He freezes he can freeze you and then kill you. There was this one scene, I hope I'm not giving too much away, but there's this one scene because he's kind of normal sometimes, and then he killed this one guy when he was normal. He started bleeding. He froze his blood, like when it was coming out of him, and then he used the guy's blood to like throw his blood pick into the guy's head. I thought that was that's like better than Soprano shit right there. And but anyway, the killing is unbelievable in this thing. It's done very, very well. I can't wait to hear what you guys thought of the action sequence. I mean, there's an MMA fighter in this thing. So I thought that was incredible. It did get a little bit boring in the middle. I won't lie, just because I'm not into this stuff, and there was like a lot of training sequences that were very, very long and stuff. But the fighting scenes were unbelievable. I wanted to say, if I could be anybody, I'd be that Sub-Zero guy, but I wouldn't kill anybody. Okay, if I could have that power to do that, I would sit outside Starbucks every day. And when people walk out of the Starbucks with their hot coffees, I would just make them freeze. I would just do that all day and live my life.
That's a dick move, Sal.
But some of the other characters in this, Jax was played by Menkad Brooks. He did a good job. The guy that did Sub-Zero was really good. Let me see. Oh, there was a lot of catchphrases in the movie from the video game, because I saw a thing on the video game, and they used a lot of those catchphrases and stuff in that. Anyway,
share some of the catchphrases.
I can't remember. I wrote some of them down, but you guys might know them. But I just know that they used a lot of catchphrases and stuff that I didn't really understand. But I just know that they were in there. So I'm like, wait a minute, what did he say? And then my brother kind of chimed in and stuff in the back, and he was like, hey, that's a catchphrase. So he watched it. My nephew came in and watched it. But anyway, I really enjoyed it. It was out of my realm, but I thought, hang on, I had some other stuff. And it kind of ended weird, but then I thought, wait a minute, this is going to be kind of a franchise. So it didn't have, like Zach was saying earlier, it wasn't a movie where it kind of had a beginning, a middle, and an end. It really doesn't end. It ends with kind of you thinking, all right, it's going to be another franchise, and they can do this on and on. But I give it 5 tomato sauce jars. I thought it was really good. I thought it was a great movie. I really did. But again, I'd like to hear Zach and Jeff's take, because you guys are really into this genre of movies. But I tell you what, for me, I had a really good time. It was 110 minutes long, but it went by pretty quick besides that little middle. So.
Yeah, I agree with you. In the very beginning, I was on board 100%. The second act is non-existent. This movie really just drags through the dirt for a little bit. I had my problems with some of it. I did find the fight scenes to be well choreographed. I did find them to be very exciting. I did think that there was a lot of cutting, in the scenes, and these are some amazing actors and some amazing martial artists. So I always like when they do longer scenes to let the choreography kind of stand out. But the fighting itself was cool. I did have a problem with Sonya Blade's character. The acting was absolutely awful.
Yeah, you're right.
But B, her character is set up to be the only one that knows everything about Mortal Kombat. Yet she's the only character that has to prove herself to get a mark. She's the only one that has to that doesn't know that you need a mark to get into this for some reason. And I also found the character of Cole to be really just a piece of silly putty, absolutely nothing to that character.
Okay.
So, and my biggest problem, because I am a fan of lore, that Mortal Kombat is a tournament. This movie is not a tournament.
Correct.
This movie is, we've won 9 straight tournaments, and before this tournament, we're going to cheat because we don't want to win. I really do not understand why. I mean, entertaining, yes. I'm a plot dude, and this one fell a little short, but aggressively entertaining. Yeah, very much so.
Exactly. Yeah, well put, man.
So it falls under like the thank God I'm in bed and not paying for this category.
Yeah.
A few things. One, sometimes I agree with you, Sal. That opening scene where they're fighting and he's got that blade on that rope, and that was an amazing
really cool
fight scene. And to me, the movie as a whole was like if the 5 of us got together and said, what do we got in our basement? Let's make a Mortal Kombat movie. Like, to me, like that was the level of it. It was obviously a little better than that, but not at the level I think it should have been. It looked like they just couldn't know how to focus on one thing at any given time. I mean, if you watch a movie where there's like a lot of things going on, there was never anything really multiple going on at the same time. It would seem very linear to me. And it felt very linear. And there was one scene in the very beginning where the guy he's Bi-Han before, and you go, it's been centuries. He goes, you can call me Sub-Zero. I go, it's been centuries and no one knows to call me Sub-Zero. You know what I mean? It's just like, it was like little things like that sometimes.
Well, that was like the weird thing for me was the movie started in the 1600s, and I guess the baby, who's a female, has the mark. Sub-Zero, who only goes after the mark, cannot find this baby for some reason. And then the movie cuts to 400 years later where the mark can go, I guess, just to the next person in your lifeline, I guess, but sometimes you also have to kill people. But then the idea of it being a female like never came back. Like it wasn't Cole's mom and it wasn't Cole, like I don't understand why they showed us 1613 AD when it's like, what's the point of that? I just, it was so many weird things, but every time the fighting was going, I was like, I'm in.
Right. Yeah. A lot of the fighting was cool. And like when they smashed the heads and did some of the things from the, but it was, I liked Cole Young, but you're right. It wasn't, he wasn't like, he's clearly a good actor, but I watched it.
Do you think this
what do you think, Geoffrey?
Do you mind if I pipe in?
Absolutely.
I watched it. I don't want to like step on toes.
No, that's what we do here. Go ahead.
So from like a storytelling perspective or a character development perspective, one of the big issues with the film, and the film was written by Greg Russo, who, him and his brother did Infinity, did Avengers Infinity War, and what is it? And whatever.
Endgame.
Well, they didn't write those. They directed them. Yeah.
Yeah, they directed them. Right. So I mean, he's pretty good. So, but one of the issues with the Cole is an uninteresting character. So they create him because they want you to have heart for the characters. They want him to be, quote, likable. So thus they put in, his family and he's poor and all these. They create all of these things to make him likable, but he's not interesting, and that's the problem. So he can be a likable character, which is not interesting. Which then, when you take a supporting character who is interesting, like Kano, for instance, hilarious, confident, cocky, knows who he is. And they give him all of the best lines that outshines, right, the central character, which then leaves a big hole in the film because now you're rooting and supporting a supporting character where we're losing the through line of the whole film. So that's a big issue. And that's one of the reasons why Act 2 dragged on, is because they're trying to develop a character who's uninteresting.
Okay. Very well put.
Boom.
Interesting.
Surfing it up.
The saw in half, the head of the hat.
Of the
saw.
Yeah, I love Kung Lao. He's great. He was always one of my favorite characters to play as.
Well, my problem with it in general was you have this extremely powerful group that ran whatever the realm that wins all the combats, and they're like, Earth has the shittiest heroes ever. Let's spend all of our time trying to kill them so we can win. But they're the shittiest. They're horrible.
Yeah.
We're going to win. We're going to beat them. Yeah, but we got to spend all our time to get them. You know what I mean? It's just like, it just made no sense. It's like if the Earth people were good, it would have made sense.
Yeah.
But all they did was make them good. That was our plan.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's the issue is that, they were writing for the sequel. And whenever I work with students, I always say, write for this film, don't write for the sequel. Because what happens is you put off all of the great stuff that you want for the sequel. But if the first one sucks and it's not good enough to warrant a sequel, then you're already written yourself out of your own project.
Yeah.
But this is an IP. It's popular. It's got great talent behind it. People loved it, and they really, did a good job with the martial arts and the kills and all that stuff. So they're going to get a sequel. So the second one, the actual tournament, should be amazing. But had this not had the IP, had this not had all the great talent behind it, this would not get a sequel.
Yeah.
Now it came out, I believe, April 16th. I read that it made $51 million. Is that considered really, really good for just a couple weeks? I mean,
COVID good. It's probably COVID good.
That's what I was saying. I don't know what's good anymore because
it came out April 23rd. And yeah, that's actually very good for right now. Yeah. Apparently it outdid the Snyder cut of Justice League, so it's getting a lot of views on HBO Max.
Yeah, we could probably also get twice as many views.
Yeah, true.
But all right, cool. That's awesome. All right, Geoffrey, let's keep you going. We're gonna go to Shadow and Bone, a Netflix original series.
It's funny. It's how I read it in my head too. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here, guys. So tell me, what am I supposed to walk you through the whole show? Because that's not going to happen.
No, just tell us what it's all about and if we should watch it. And
okay, so Shadow and Bone is an original IP based on a trilogy of books that was written by a young woman that was very popular. It takes place in an alternate reality. It's not based on our history at all. In this kind of original realm, it's very influenced. It seems to be very influenced by Russian and Viking culture, and some Asian culture as well. But magic is real, and in particular, people are blessed with magic, and it's a bit taboo. So they can be looked at as separate from others. And there's a whole lore there in mythology, which is great because that's really good to build out a show. But what it centers around is this big void in the middle of the world that separates a country. And within the void is these creatures that kill you. And so the country is divided. So there's a civil war brimming between both sides of the country because the other end of the country now wants independence because they can't really cross the void without risking death. So there's some political intrigue there that's very interesting. And the magic users are now a wing of the military, and they have a lot of social influence and power. But that's being threatened by the invention of the gun. So that's also like a fun little subplot. Now, the fold, as they call it, this big shadowy dark area that's full of evil, was created by a character named the Dark Heretic, who is like an evil wizard, and he's been gone for centuries, right? And then the lore is that somebody will be born called the Suncaster or whatever, and they'll be able to close the fold, right? So that's the whole thing. And then by mid pilot, you discover the main character that we have been following, who was an army recruit and pretty much a nobody, is that person that can harness the sun. So it's pretty cool. I think it's worth a watch. It's definitely fun to binge.
Okay. Sounds cool. All right, and that's the #1 show. So you watched it too, right, Zach?
Oh yeah.
You love it?
I actually like this thing a lot. It's a YA fantasy novel, so it does have that young adult feel to it. But I felt like once like the second episode got going, the story was actually really cool, and it really got churning. Ben Barnes is in it. He's the bad guy from the Punisher series. He's also in a lot of the Narnia movies. He does an amazing job in this. I'll say the show is very, very well cast, very diverse. And it's pretty faithful to the books. I liked it. I thought it was very entertaining. It churned along pretty well. It started a little slow. It is a little cheesy because it is YA, but for the most part, it was pretty entertaining. And it was one of the most fun things I've watched on the top 10 in a while outside of the circle.
I'd say that one of the big YA aspects of it is that whenever there's dialogue between two characters, they just hang on each other.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
they're like, okay, are they kissing this guy? No, okay, they're not going to. And it's like
Yeah.
every scene. I told
Yeah.
my wife, I'm going to start talking to people like, and then I'm going to look away just to see what happens.
So, Jeffrey, let me ask you a question. So, this can be for the past movie too. So, as an avid screenwriter and somebody who writes books about screenplays and all that kind of stuff,
Sure.
when you're watching a movie, does it freaking does that just drive you nuts? Can you enjoy a movie knowing, oh, they made this mistake, they did this error,
right? That's funny that you asked that. My wife had called me out on this right before I started really getting into it, and she says you'll never enjoy movies the same way again, and she was absolutely right. So I break down everything, and it's really, for me, it's a test of might, if we want to use a Mortal Kombat, right? So what it is if I'm watching a film and I don't go into analyzing it, that's a hell of a film. Mm-hmm. Because it can take me out of my brain and I can really enjoy it. And it does not happen often.
It happened with Legally Blonde, I'm sure. Right?
I bet it happened. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm joking.
Yeah, it got me.
What was the last movie you can remember that happening?
Actually, one I just watched yesterday, because we are analyzing a movie. I do on my podcast every Wednesday. I analyze a film, and so I sat down to analyze this film. I ended up getting lost in it, then I got frustrated. But it's called Infinity Chamber, and it's on Amazon Prime, and it was done on a micro budget, but it's really cool. It's about a guy stuck in a prison, and he's forced to relive an instant over and over and over again. I thought it was really good.
Ooh, it's an extra review.
I was
sorry.
There we go.
After one of my high school reunions, I connected with a buddy of mine, hadn't seen, and we started writing movie scripts. They didn't go anywhere, but but I started reading books and stuff, and how to write it. And it was 10 pages in, the thing
inciting
happens.
Incident,
inciting incident. That if it didn't happen, the rest of the movie wouldn't occur. Right. 25 pages in, it's so methodical. You don't, and learning that, you realize everything is manipulated. Manipulated.
It's structure. Story has a structure.
Well, I know, but if you don't realize you're getting sucked into this thing, it's when you realize, oh, there's a pattern to this. I'm being walked through a pattern that is over and over again, and this is why I feel the way I feel and react the way I react over and over again. It was just interesting to me.
Yes, we are. Storytellers are the best manipulators.
But you can also watch, and you hear about this after the fact a lot. You can also sit down to watch a TV show, or more so with TV shows than movies, I would say. And you could see where it's, a rock, that gets withered down by outside influences. You can see where a studio or, just the climate, of the time can start to change a script and a screenplay from what it could have or should have been, and spin it in different ways, or water it down or soften it. And there's nothing more frustrating when you can see a screenplay start great. I always call it what I now deem the SNL skit philosophy now, which is there's so many last 10 years where you're watching it, you're going, this is hysterical, and then there's nothing.
Well,
how to end it. And I often feel movies are like that now. It starts off so great and promising, and then it just fizzles at the end of it.
Well, the big myth, I think, or misunderstanding with a lot of screenwriters, are that they think they'll write a screenplay and that it'll be well received, and then a director will come on or a producer will come on and they'll make this screenplay, and then they'll have this movie. That just 100% does not work that way. You write the screenplay, and then the director comes on, they give you notes for the rewrite. Then the producer comes on, they give you notes for the rewrite. Then another producer gives you notes for the rewrite. Then an actor wants his part rewritten because he doesn't like the dialogue. So, everybody has to have their scent on the script. And so it changes over time. And
Sure.
and you have to kind of go along with that.
But I agree, when you kind of fall into a movie and you don't see the seams, and then you like finish a movie and you're like, wow, they really just they took me. And I'll say for me, the last movie that really did that for what was Parasite, the Bong Joon-ho movie.
Yeah,
when I
that's a good
watched
one.
that, like once that movie started, I never like I might as well just blacked out, but I consumed it. But there was never a point where I was like, this is the writing thing, this is when they introduced this is where this part goes. It was just like a straight up beautiful story. So I do like when you can just fall into something
Yeah.
and not see any part of it.
For me, it was Porky's.
Ladies and gentlemen,
It holds up.
we
It
do
holds up.
want to have everyone go to the GoFundMe. We're going to try and get a light bulb for Howard Rosner. We're just trying to raise $5. That's it. Just $5.
Rosner, what are you doing with that monster money you got over there? Get a light bulb, god damn it.
Yeah, times are tough. I'm buying T-shirts.
I like that T-shirt. Speaking
It's
of
a good movie.
T-shirts, speaking of needing money,
Yeah.
billions.
So,
This is
I know I've
Rosner.
mentioned this show a couple of times before. So when I have rough weeks, just where I'm exhausted mentally because of things. Last week had some issues with the dogs, and I'm mentally drained. Instead of picking up and watching something new, generally speaking, what I do is go back and watch like favorite episodes of shows. So Billions is in the middle of its 5th season. The 5th season was delayed by COVID, and they are basically filming back to back the rest of the 5th season and then the 6th season right now. It is one of my favorite shows of all time. I know I've said that before. It is 2 of my favorite actors, Paul Giamatti. I can't get enough of anything he was in. I flipped on the TV the other day, and horrible movie, but The Negotiator with Samuel Jackson was on, and I forgot Paul Giamatti was just a bit player in that, and he's just great. I love him in everything he's in. So for those,
he was even great in Planet of the Apes.
I don't know if
He played the orangutan.
Yeah, he's a orangutan.
Yeah, that's right. He's great. I mean, obviously, Sideways is
Mhm.
one of my favorite.
Yeah,
roles.
Spider-Man 2.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He was Rhino.
He was.
Why didn't they bring him back for the Spider-Verse?
Oh, he's
maybe they
coming. Don't
will.
worry.
Who lives near a train? I just heard a train.
Not me.
Did I just hear a train? Oh, I'm sorry. All right. I thought I heard a train. Go ahead, Al. I'm sorry.
Too much pasta.
No.
Anyways, so for those who haven't seen this show, the gist of the show is that Paul Giamatti, starting in season 1, is the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, which is relevant nowadays, obviously. And his wife, Maggie Siff from Sons of Anarchy, who I think is incredible also, she works as a private therapist for the employees of a hedge fund run by Damian Lewis of Band of Brothers and other great shows. I love him in Band of Brothers. Bobby Axelrod, Axe Capital is his hedge fund. He very clearly operates on the edges of legality. So you've got the U.S. District Attorney trying to bring down the hedge fund manager operating on the edges of legality, and in between is his wife, the district attorney's or the U.S. attorney's wife, who works as the right hand to the hedge fund manager, and that's where the first season starts, and it's great. They're both obsessed. One's obsessed with making money. The other is obsessed with bringing him down. Each season gets better and better, in my opinion. In season 2, they introduced Asia Kate Dillon, who plays a character named Taylor Mason that is a non-binary character who just adds such a great. First of all, it's an incredible character, and then I think it adds such another great layer, especially in the first and second season that she's on. Just watching other characters have to relate to somebody that isn't so such somebody that is different for them to deal with, in especially that financial world. And I think that's fascinating as well. But the twists and turns of the show are superb. The acting is superb. The writing is great. The show's created by the younger Sorkin, and Brian Koppelman, who wrote Rounders, was his first major movie. And so I think from a show running standpoint, I think it's great. It's just awesome. It's got a little bit of the Sorkin style in the dialogue, which I think is similar to the Mamet style, which is a lot of references and lengthy dialogue that is colorful to, it's kind of, I always think it's kind of like machine gun dialogue to color a scene, which, Newsroom, anything Sorkin's done is you always see that. And Sports Night, same thing. And so it's got a lot of that to it. I just love the show. I'm so excited for it to start. They haven't announced, but it'll be the second half of this year for sure. It's on Showtime and streamable. If you haven't watched it, you have plenty of time now to go watch the 4.5 seasons before they start the new show. It's a fantastic show.
Yeah, I heard good things, man.
Yeah, I got to check that one out. So very cool. All right, so Billions it is, my friend.
Billions. What is that on, Howard? What did you say?
Showtime.
Watch? Showtime? All right.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I have Showtime.
Yeah, I don't either.
The first couple seasons maybe, I'll check right now. They may be available on other services.
They definitely chew through a lot of storylines on that show. Like where other shows would take like an entire season for a storyline, they plow through it in about three episodes, which blew my mind how much content they go through.
They do, but yet somehow there's always the thematic is going on for the entire season.
What are the episodes?
Yeah,
are they 25-minute or 50-minute?
No, it's an hour. It's an hour drama.
Yeah.
All right.
What do you think? Do you like it, Jeffrey?
It is really good. Yeah, thematically, it's about two guys that are obsessed, but they're obsessed in different ways, and so it becomes about obsession versus power versus control. So it's like having two alpha dogs in the same yard. I mean, that's really what this is, and the amount of lengths these guys will go through to destroy each other, and how you really realize that they're both shallow individuals who really don't care about anybody else except for winning. And so it's just watching these two hot messes go at each other through their own divisive means. It's quite amazing to watch how their lives fall apart because of it. And then eventually they just burn everything down trying to go at each other. So even when they have peace, they don't have peace because they're trying to find the new angle. Because one of the tricks with writing for television, like long form narrative versus a feature, which is a limited narrative, is to always keep them bleeding. So these guys are always getting back together, somehow making repairs of their individual lives with their families, but then doing something that screws it up just a little bit more. It's fascinating.
I should mention two other characters on the show that are smaller characters, but still have their moments that I think are Geoffrey D, who plays
he's great.
Plays Paul Giamatti's father. You know him from a bunch of other things. A veteran.
He was in The Walking Dead. Played
Carl,
Carl, but the other guy.
He is so good as his father. And then stand-up comedian Dan Soder plays a character named Maffei, and he's had a bigger role as the seasons went on, and he's just
great comedian.
He's a great comic foil. His dialogue's usually pretty funny, and it usually involves a lot of stuff that he likes. He and Koppelman as well. Like they've mentioned pro wrestling a lot, and there's a lot of gambling references. There's a lot of reference. In the third season, Teddy KGB himself from Rounders, he plays a character very similar to Teddy KGB.
That's all. Dude, a
Russian billionaire.
John Malkovich?
I have to see this.
Yeah.
Howard, I have to see this just because of the connection with Rounders. That's literally in my top top 10 movies of all time. It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Cool movie.
It's a great movie, but it
That's
has as a poker fan, it has one of the, speaking of screenplay, it has such an immense plot hole. That final contest is such an immense plot hole.
Yeah.
We argue about all the time, but
True.
I'm not going to go into poker strategy.
No, you're right. The poker strategy part was a little bit ridiculous, but the overall movie was unbelievable. And when they go up north to play in a poker tournament, they went to Binghamton, New York. That's where I'm from, just so you guys know.
Oh, nice.
I didn't know you weren't from Michigan.
No, I wasn't.
All right. That was awesome. Great job on Billions, guys.
Yeah, great job.
All right, so let's recap the journey that was the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I do want to say we've talked about this a couple times on the show. A few episodes ago, I made a startling prediction. So if you're in the spoilers, turn it down for a second. We're gonna play. We got a clip from.
That was a mini Rosner rant.
So, all right. So we'll check back with you in a couple weeks. But I'm enjoying it as well, and I'm going with Sharon as the power broker. That's I'm going.
Agreed.
No way.
I'm going all in with that.
No way.
Okay, Zach. For those of you who think Zach is Zach v. Jeff in the battle of who will be right.
Not the power broker. That doesn't make sense.
Wow.
It still doesn't make sense, but whatever.
It took him 9 hours to edit that. For
I
you.
know. I'm like, wait.
That in your face.
I remember thinking to myself, wait a minute. I think we talked about this.
Yeah.
But
I agreed, just for the record. You
did agree. So let's talk about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I loved it. I thought it was so good. And no, that's not good. And I loved the whole journey. Like everyone's like, oh yeah, he should be Captain America. But I think had he just become Captain America,
it wouldn't have worked. Yeah.
It was so brilliant the way they did it by the end. And I guess I like it when I texted Rosner, I'm like, holy crap, on the last episode. I wanted to say grab a tissue, man, because it was a tearjerker. That Sam, I mean, the way that's the whole thread with oh my god, it was.
I mean, we've talked about it now a couple of times. The last 2.5 episodes would have been a superbly reviewed and Marvel MCU movie. The quality of it's just great. It's so, we live in a glorious time where that's television, right? I mean, it's just amazing to me. I thought it was great. It was, that last episode was, riveting. I thought it had a superb soliloquy on race in America, which, relevant, no question, and, strongly delivered, well written and well delivered and acted. I love the redemption in a lot of ways for the Winter Soldier character. I loved, the MCU movies. This is why I hate the frickin' DC movies. There's nothing joyful in the DC movies. Like just the little jokes about the Winter Soldier, like opening jars and stuff like that with his, mechanical vibranium arm. Like that's just little stuff that Marvel does amazingly well that I think colors the movie and can take you from heavy scene to action scene to smiling scene. They're just good shows. And this one was, just another one in the line. I can't wait for Loki now.
Loki's going to be amazing.
Yeah. It's, I just thought it was a great series that built to a great climax. And now, we were so excited collectively about WandaVision's potential ties to the future of the MCU. This series blew that out of the water, probably, when it's all said and done. There's, 3 or 4 potential storylines that it ties to. So I thought it was great.
Jeff
Yeah.
or Zach?
To me, it was good. It was very good. Everything you said, Howard, is spot on. Unfortunately, everything you said is the best part of it. It is Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I felt Bucky was a sidekick at best throughout this whole thing. Sam's journey was impactful and beautifully written and well done. But like we said off air, because of the storyline transition they had to do to get away from a global pandemic, and then the Flag Smashers only given the treatment to their people, that would have been great. But the way they had to edit it kind of made the main bad guy, Carly, just not engaging enough. I never really understood what the point of anything they were doing was. They just kind of set up a bunch of stuff, so we're like, well, they're bad, so I guess we got to fight them. But and then like the arc of Wyatt Russell's character was so good that it overshadowed the bad guy of the whole series, and then he just flipped and was like, all right, I'm actually a good guy now, it's cool. And there was like no real redemption or no real anything. It's like, yeah, okay, he's good, sure, cool, all right. But yeah, outside of like but I will say the scene in the museum, I don't think I've cried harder at a show than in that. When Isaiah Bradley walked into that part of the museum and saw his statue and saw that for the first time somebody was going to make sure that his story was remembered, I thought that was a beautiful thing, and that's the best way. When I left the whole show, I was excited every single episode. I didn't like it as much as WandaVision. I didn't think it was as exciting, as like interesting. It was an MCU movie that was spread out. Yep. So it wasn't as like, I was like, okay, this is just an MCU movie. Like they're not really trying to be anything different here. But I did like that Sam at the end turned into Tony Stark, Captain America, and Black Panther all at once. So that's pretty cool. And I'm definitely excited to see where this is going. But yeah, this just seemed like a big lead up to something that is next, which is what Marvel movies are great at, which DC movies are not that good at, which is selling you the next movie. They're just commercials for the next movie. And DC movies have a lot of fun in them. I'm not sure if you saw Shazam. There's some humor in there.
Shazam was funny. I don't consider Shazam part of the DCU, for lack of a better term.
And there's a lot of guys that think Joker is funny.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Did you guys see the subtle change at the bottom?
Oh, Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah. That was good. That was
I
good.
spelled it wrong.
Yeah, I mean the reality is, I think the gist of it from a screenwriting standpoint is the bad guy. The bad guy was the system, right? I mean that's what the whole thing was leading to, was the Falcon becoming Captain America, and it was the system and a commentary on that. So to some degree, it didn't matter as much, but I understand what you're talking about. It kind of came out of nowhere, and they never really had a defined, they're fighting for something that wasn't really fighting for something that everybody was really fighting for. And, and they sometimes use the quote unquote council or a council, whatever the council may be, throughout the movies to sort of play the antithesis role in whatever the issue is, to some effect. But I just, and you're right. Bucky wasn't as spelled out. The whole redemption part for Bucky, with the therapist and everything and crossing the names off of his list could have been a bigger part of it. He was a little bit more of a backseat. But I just, you're right. They pass you down to the next great thing. And Loki hopefully is nothing short of that. And, can't wait now for Black Widow. I'm super excited. Totally separate thought, but Marvel MCU, Shang-Chi, the trailer that came out last week, looked incredible. Talk about, martial arts movies on steroids. That looks amazing.
That looked really good. Yeah. So what do you think
Anybody
about
else?
the MCU, Jeffrey?
Oh yeah,
I
I didn't know if I
it.
was being segued. Go. Oh, okay. So yeah, the system is definitely a villain. They were discussing that, and also extremism, was the villain. So that was kind of thematically what they were playing with. So they were trying to humanize Carly and show the justification for why she was doing what she was doing, and they're humanizing her in that way, which made it difficult to view her as a villain, because they were showing her with like losing the mother figure and the displacement, and then they are getting topical with refugees, which is something that is very, you know, in the news right now. So they're getting that way. So it's a little bit difficult trying to find the villain. On top of it, they were really trying to lean on redemption, right? So you had redemption with the Winter Soldier. You had even had redemption with Zemo. I mean, he was trying to have a little bit of an arc there too, where they are trying to at least get him so that you understand him better and more clearly, and that he is a man of conviction. So yeah, they are setting up for some kind. I don't know if it's going to be for the Thunderbolts or if it's going to be for Dark Avengers, but they are definitely going somewhere with it. But this story had to be told from the Falcon's point of view, because we had to see a natural transition of him going through all of the things that he went through, which was perfectly done, in my opinion, to become and accept Captain America. So if he had just picked up the shield, 100% wouldn't have worked. But if that is going to be his arc, then I can see why he is the central character of the story, and the Winter Soldier becomes the supporting character to help kind of round that out. Because if they were competing for it, I don't feel that Sam's plotline would have weighed as heavily and as powerfully. U.S. Agent, I just thought it was great because I like the U.S. Agent. Wyatt Russell crushed it. If you're such a good actor that people hate you as a person, then you're amazing, and you're an entire different class of acting. People could not separate him from the character, which is a phenomenal job. And so hopefully he comes out later on somewhere else in the MCU somewhere. And just real quick, my take on the MCU heroes versus DC heroes. MCU heroes are people. They are humans. They have real human problems that we can all identify with through universal truths that they kind of infuse into their characters, like insecurity or dealing with oppression, things like that. Whereas DC characters are gods. They are not relatable. So when you write a movie about a god who is fighting another evil god, it's hard to get an audience behind that. Which is why Shazam was so successful, because he's a kid. And so they're able to, and he's not just that, he's a sweet, lovable orphan kid with a good heart. So we're able to get behind that character. But when you have other gods that can knock buildings down and, you know, all that other stuff, it's hard to empathetically get behind them.
Excellent
It's
analysis. We do have to say goodnight. Obviously, we're sorry we're at the end though. But that was amazing. Jeff, I can't thank you enough for joining us. Great insight. Great insight. Say goodnight, Geoffrey.
Good night.
Say goodnight, Howard.
Good night. Theme show coming next week.
Zach, say goodnight.
Good night.
Sal, say goodnight.
Good night, SalDeMillia.com. Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase this weekend. Come on out.
JeffDewaskin.com. No, Jeffrey.
I know. I was like, we're plugging.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for another episode of Crossing the Streams. And we'll see you next week, 9:30 p.m.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Crossing the Streams, brought to you by SceneSnobs.com and part of the Jeff Dewaskin Show. Your hosts, of course, Jeff Dewaskin, Sal D'Amelio, Bob Phillips, Ron Lippett, and Howard Rosner. Follow us all on the socials, and we'll see you next week and every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Mark your calendars. We're going live and crossing more streams.